Councillor Mackey.
Yeah, hi, my name's Mackey, Councillor for Sutton Roughley Ward.
Okay, so welcome all to a meeting. I need to advise you that the meeting is being held in public and there will be a recording available for future record.
A lot of feedback on that. It was like duplicating what you were saying.
I think it's because there might be someone who's got a speaker on their laptop and a headphone or something on, and I know it's not me, but that's another story. So moving on. So thanks for that. Okay. Leslie, are you able just to share with everyone the information from the police, please, for item number 3?
Yes, today, probably about 5:30, we received apologies from the police. I've put the note that the update from the last report into the chat, but I will read it out now. Let me just find the email from Heather. Bear with me one moment. Right, Heather says she's very sorry that she can't be here tonight. At the last meeting, saw complaints regarding to the right turn in Holland Road. We have run a police traffic operation on the junction and 18 motorists were issued with penalties, not warnings. We have another operation planned very soon and we are working alongside the road harm reduction team to tackle this matter. She then says that crime has remained steady with no significant spikes. There have been a couple of burglaries that have been linked to a person who is known to us and is currently wanted. So hopefully he will be caught in custody soon. And obviously she just says she's very sorry that she can't be here tonight.
There you are. Right. Can they see me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see you, David.
David.
We can see you.
Thanks,
all right. Thank you. Okay. Does that complete the police update?
That's the completed police update. And what I say for the next part of the meeting, if everybody can turn the microphones off, or if they aren't able to, I'll turn the microphones off so that we can all hear each other clearly. Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's a shame that the police can't be with us, but I suppose it's a sign of the COVID situation, very difficult time. If we can invite them to our next meeting, please, Leslie, that would be really good.
Yeah, will do. Yeah, noted.
Okay then. Moving on to item number 4, and I'm going to ask Ray Goodwin. Is it Ray or is it John Mole who's going to be talking on this one? I'm getting a nod from Ray Goodwin, who's going to talk to us about this item. Thank you.
It's only Ray, Councillor.
Thank you. Good evening, colleagues. My name is Ray Goodwin from Spitfire Advice and Support Services, and I'm working with my colleagues in the Neighbourhood Development Support Unit and the Commonwealth Games team to support celebrating community funding in wards in Sutton and Erdington. And we've asked colleagues within Trinity Ward to put in applications, and we have an application this evening from Tudor Community Sports Trust. So Claire unfortunately cannot be with us this evening, so I've agreed to read a short synopsis of the application. I will then facilitate a session of questions if there are any, and I believe my colleague David Roy is on and he has agreed to answer any questions on Claire's behalf. Is that right, David?
David, you're on mute. Sorry.
Say it again, Dad.
So I'll discover, but only just recently. I'll do my best.
Okay. We'll even if I can answer anything from the application, then I will do that as well. So I'm just going to speak very briefly about the application from Tudor Community Trust, what they're asking for, how it meets the Commonwealth kind of priorities, and the amount, and then we will move forward. So Tudor Community Trust have applied, in essence, to upgrade and put in place a MUGA, which is going to do a number of things which meets all the priorities for Sutton Trinity Ward, but also fit into the ward plan, but also for the Commonwealth Community Games. So in essence, what they want to do is do a number of activities. And firstly, they want to do some Crown Green bowling surface improvements. They also want to do some activities called Ready Steady Fun 2021 and Get Active 2021, which will take over a number of open days. There will be an open tournament, and there will be a Get Active program, and there will be some open taster sessions. There will be an open local tournament as well, which will include Crown Green bowling, tennis, netball, and some other associated activities. They're going to be working with partners from a number of organisations, Age UK, Sutton B, Met College, local businesses. They're going to support the Duke of Edinburgh Reward Scheme and some other stuff. There's some impact assessments that go along with this, which are kind of saying how the application then will have a long-term impact and the sustainability within Sutton Trinity Ward. Tudor Community Trust are asking for £8,766. From my conversation and dialogue with Claire, she has undergone extensive community consultation for this application. Reading the application, it absolutely fits right into what Celebrating Communities is and the strategic aims and the ward plan for Sutton Coldfield. I will stop there. I think that's a lot of information to get over in a very short space of time. If anybody has any questions and they would like to ask them, now is the time.
Thank you, Ray. David, do you want to add anything more to what Ray has already said?
No, I think that was a very good synopsis of what they're asking for. There is a 12-page submission, which I've seen. Incidentally, I'm not a trustee, I'm a local resident, and I've been privileged to use the facilities, mainly the bowling.
Thank you. Has anyone got any questions? Could you indicate by putting your hand up or showing on the screen? I can't see anyone with any questions, Ray. So is there anything else you need to say before we vote on this?
So what we know.
Oops, sorry, Ray.
Oh, wait, there we go. I'm unmuted now. Council, what we now need to do is take a vote. If that could be a show of hands or a show of hands in the chat box, and then I will count the show of hands up, and then I will inform Sutton Community Trust, or Tudor Community Trust, I should say, of the outcome of the meeting.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We need a majority. Well, one, I can see. I do if my finger starts waving around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. 9. Do I have anybody who is not in favour of the application? Can I have a show of hands if you're not in favour? I believe is there? No, that's gone down. Good. I believe I have a unanimous agreement for the application.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. So what I will do next, Councillor, colleagues, I will write to Tudor Community Trust tomorrow morning and inform them of the outcome. I will then write formally to the Neighbourhood Development and Support Unit of the meeting, whilst colleagues are online from Neighbourhood Development and Support Unit, so they're aware of the outcome, but I will formally do that. And then, John, would you like just to explain what happens next?
Thank you, Ray. That was nicely timed. So I just put my hand up. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the ward because you're leading the city here quite well. There's only a couple of wards so far that have actually allocated any of their funding. So well done, guys. Very well done. The process is now very, very simple because it's coming back to me and I don't like bureaucracy, as you probably have all guessed by now. It's a very simple condition of grant aid that the recipient has to sign. I will talk them through it as well, line by line, if necessary. If I'm then happy with it, which I know I will be, I can do an immediate backs payment, and within 24 hours, it could actually be in the bank account. It can literally be that quick.
Jolly good.
Thank you, John. Okay. Okay, so that was a good application. I think there is still time for more to be submitted. I think the deadline's the 31st of October. So if anybody still wants to apply for grant applications, please contact us, and Leslie can perhaps forward on the information to them from Ray or John. So thank you, Ray and John. And thank you, David, for coming in there as well. And I hope everyone will still stay with the meeting. We've got a couple of other items on the agenda. The other two items, if you haven't seen the full agenda, are on highways and on Sutton Coldfield Town Council and the update. So please, you're very welcome to stay if you wish to, because I know a lot of you have come just for that last item. So thank you very much. So,
Councillor, just before Mr. Randall dominates the meeting, it's just a general offer as well to the ward. If you've got any groups out there that want any support or building up, it's myself, and we've now got a new colleague called Karl that's joining me. So the offer is always out there. If we find that we're inundated by bids, which would be brilliant, again, we'll take some of those groups away and see what we can do to find them some external funding as well as just the city funding.
Thank you for that offer, John. Have you met up with Jessica, the new community officer for the Sutton Town Council?
I haven't, but my door's always open if she wants to contact me.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you, John. Okay, so there's not been any more questions on that one. That brings us on to item number 5, which is highways. Is Lucy with us?
No. Hi,
Kevin?
I'm Kevin Gibbon. I'm standing in for Lucy tonight. I'm the Kier highway steward for the east of Birmingham, so I don't cover your area as such, but I'm stepping in this evening. So hi, nice to meet everybody. Good to see everybody.
Hi.
Quick update from me. We've got a couple of jobs in the pipeline that will be coming through shortly. We've got some resurfacing schemes going on Anchorage Road, Grange Lane and Shooters Hill. I can't give you any actual fixed dates at the moment because the programme is quite fluid, and would just continue to encourage everybody to report any faults that they have through the Birmingham Council website, really, and we can get somebody out to have a look at those.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. There's going to be a few questions tonight, and I know my colleague's got some as well, and we're going to bring Karl in as well. Kevin, if I may just sort of kick off to start with, I'm generally concerned about the number of times we've seen temporary lights over the summer period around the town where there's not been any activity actually going on. I've had to report lights failing at Reddycap Heath Road Junction by the Reddycap there on 3 or 4 times. I think it's battery failure or some other reason. Now, this might be a statutory undertaker's responsibility, not Kier's. I'm not 100%. I've had to report temporary lights on Streetley Lane where the work wasn't happening. I've had to report temporary lights on Anchorage Road where a lamppost some work had been done there, and there was a pile of rubble next to it, but the footpath was passable, but again, there was no work happening. And all of this is just compounding to traffic problems and therefore pollution around the town through needless jams. I'm wondering if, from a care point of view, what you can comment on going forward on that subject.
Well, for a start off, you're quite right in what you say. It is the undertaker's responsibility to deal with those lights. However, we have a duty of care to manage that situation. And if third-party lights aren't working, we do need to be on top of that. So thank you for reporting it. And as soon as we know about it, we can get on to the undertakers to deal with it. get everything back to where it should be. We don't like to see temporary lights on the street longer than they need to be. And if lights are out there and they're failing, then that's not a good thing. And there are procedures in place for that to be dealt with.
Right, Ewan. I think you're on mute, Ewan.
Yeah, thank you. I put it on mute because obviously Amy were ringing to try and get into the meeting, so I had to do that. But sorry, Kier, it is now. I must apologise.
Yes, Kier now.
Well, a number of questions really. The first one is Slade Road. Your colleagues will be aware of this. Those works there, relaying of slabs, etc., have been going on since July. They're four-way lights, so you can imagine they're causing absolute chaos. There was some roadworks that were on Tamworth Road at one point, so you had two sets of roadworks backing up into each other, just causing sort of carnage. I think Tamworth Road works may have been removed actually because of the problems that were caused, and it still seems to be ongoing, still getting complaints about it. I've had conversations with Lucy because residents are saying that there's no one there doing any work. Lucy's saying to me, well, you know, they've got people down for health and safety from being there. And it seems to be about, this seems to finish ridiculously early. You know, you've got people there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, not seeing anyone doing any work. And you can imagine if you're queuing through that, but I'm getting reports of people late for work, waiting to get to school because of the traffic jam. So, I mean, as I say, that's been ongoing since July, and really that work needs to come to an end, really. I would obviously quality job done all the same, but the residents who are living around there, if you imagine you're living on that it's really tough. Grange Lane, really pleased to hear about that. Do you know how far that's going? Because I actually got a photograph today, which looks the same problem that I've got on Rowan Road, Essex Road, Homer Road, which is like the other side of Slade Road, which looks like a concrete road to me, where the tarmac is being, you know, it doesn't adhere properly and it strips up off it. I've seen a photograph where you can see as far as the camera can pick out that just in the guttering there, the whole of the tarmac's come away. So you've just got basically well over 100, 200 yards of exposed concrete. And the residents there are happy about it. And Marpit Lane.
The Grange Lane, sorry to interrupt you, Councillor. The Grange Lane, the extent of the Grange Lane resurfacing is from Worcester Lane to the end at number 170.
Right, okay, so that's probably only going, because I think that goes into the high hundreds, that road. So that's probably only about halfway. So I'm suspecting that it's going to be a similar answer that I get on Row Allen and everything there, that the concrete is considered the road surface as much as the tarmac. And so even though it looks unsightly, but I'll obviously take that up with Karl in a few minutes. Not that it's his fault personally, but so no, that was it. And Marpit Lane is another one as well. That's more to do with the footway. Virtually every footway around there seems to be being replaced at the moment. The residents there are happy. Got a resident who has fallen a number of times on there, so she tells me, and she's not happy about it at all, would like that surface redone. And of course, I can see that every road around her is getting done, and that's the original surface. It's still down on there, and it's very uneven. It may not be uneven to an extent that you class as a trip hazard, but of course for her who's tripping on it, it is. But
yeah,
just feeding that back, really. Sort of.
No, I will certainly feed that back into the powers that be. I mean, I'm really sorry for the lack of information that I bring to this meeting. I've sort of deputised for Luce really short notice. I would like to be able to give you more than what I can at the moment, but I will feed those comments back in. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming along, actually. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Now you kindly shared with us there was some surfacing work happening in Anchorage Road.
Yes.
Which brings me on to another point. A few weeks ago, there was footpath work happening on the Litchfield Road by the police station in Sutton Town Centre.
Yeah.
Now, it was clear to me the work on that wasn't going to finish before the work started on Anchorage Road. So we were closely facing a situation where both those roads were going to be controlled by temporary lights during the main part of the day. So those poor people like myself and any other residents living on the north of Sutton Coldfield would have had quite a bit of inconvenience having to get home and get around the town. So I did speak to Karl about this, and he did write to Kier, and within a few days of the start date of Anchorage Road, the work was suspended on Litchfield Road footpath. And Anchorage Road started, and a couple of the afternoons, I didn't see any work happening at all.
Right.
Then it was closed again, so they could do some work on the other Wednesday. And now you've kindly shared with me there's going to be some more road surfacing work on Anchorage Road. So I'm not too clear what that might be. Can you share with us from 2 points?
Maybe.
Can I just finish my question? Sorry.
Yes, sorry.
The first question is, so from a management point of view, looking at the flows of the traffic around the town and from allocating the jobs out and the work that yourselves need to do, who's responsible for that? Because it worries me that if I hadn't have picked this up, we would have had those 2 roads closed. So that's the first question. And the second question is why has Anchorage Road got to have some more resurfacing work? Why hasn't it been finished in the one go during the school holiday, which is the very best time to do it? Now, I'm not sure if you'll know the answer to that or whether you have to go away and come back. So sorry about the tough questions, but we need answers.
Yes, you're quite right. I don't have the answers to that. I've just got a list of works that are going on within the city at the moment. It doesn't give me any particularly clear dates. It just says on my list that I've got here is that Anchorage Road from Upper Clifton Road to Litchfield Road, the carriageway is going to be resurfaced. It should, according to the dates that are written down, have been complete. That work should have been completed by the end of August. But like I said at the start of the piece, the dates are quite fluid, so they do move. So I'm not sure whether that has been completed or not. But of course I can feed back on that. And with regards to the Litchfield Road footway works, I'm completely unaware of those works because it's not my area. But I will feed back with that information.
Okay, well, can you get a response to Leslie from Lucy or wherever it needs to come from? So we've got an answer to that, and can we be assured that it won't happen again, should we say, so that there will be some improvement seen in the future, because that would be really good.
I would like to think so, yes, of course.
Thank you.
I'll do my best.
Karl. Karl's got his hand up. I don't know if his hand of help or a question. So, Karl, over to you before we ask for an update from yourself.
Okay, just a bit of help for Kevin because he has been drafted in at the 11th hour. Anchorage Road is complete. What happened with Anchorage Road? There was a problem getting literally the last 20 tonne of material to finish the works, but because I'd said it had to be day working for the majority, considering consideration of the residents, and night working only at the junction by the town hall. When they ran out of material and couldn't source it quickly enough, they had to pull off and then come back on the Wednesday just for the day. So Kevin's update sort of was correct, but it has been done now. As far as I'm aware, and I've been down it a couple of times, it is completely finished, Anchorage Road, which means that Kier will restart the footways on Litchfield Road. Now, I'd like to think, because we have coordination of works meetings and officers that monitor this, when I raised it with Kier about Litchfield Road and Anchorage at the same time, following your concern to me, I was advised that yes, the plan was to suspend Litchfield Road to get Anchorage Road completed, which was considered a priority, and as you'll recall, was to be done last year, but then the town council asked us could we suspend it due to the mass rollout of the COVID vaccination at the town hall. So we then suspended it for nearly a year. But it was getting close to where we had to make a decision to either do it this year or risk losing it for some considerable time. So we then worked with the town council and with Kier on around a 3-week window through August, and it was just unfortunate it slipped into September because of the material issue for the last part. But Kevin wouldn't know this because, as he's mentioned, it's not predominantly his area.
Thank you, Karl, for answering that
so you know,
question. Ewan, I'll bring you in a second. I'm disappointed here. Did you say 20,000 tonnes of?
No, they're literally 20 ton. It's literally one more lorry load or so
of material. So that's, yeah, okay. Thank you, Karl. Ewan, sorry.
It's all right. It was a comment at that moment in time. The moment has passed, don't worry.
Okay. Are there any questions for Kier then from anyone at all? David, I think I could.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Can I ask Karl, what's the current situation with Tudor Hill, Donovan Drive, the short section of double yellow lines?
Can I ask Karl to answer that in a moment when he gives an update on highways? He'll cover that off, and hopefully it'll be some good news. Thank you. Is there any more questions for Kier? David Allen.
Yes, thank you very much, David. Good evening. Could I just ask a question about potholes? How deep does a pothole have to be before Kier mend it?
Right, good question. So we have a measurement.
What is it?
The measurement is irrelevant.
No, it isn't. No, please tell me the parameter.
The national guidelines, we work well below the national guidelines, the Hawke guidelines. So our measurements are, the spec that we're given is 50 mil. Intervention criteria is 50 millimeters.
Right.
However, every pothole or defect is judged on its own merits due on a risk matrix. So we attend every job that we attend. We look at it, look at the situation, look at the area it's in. Is it going to cause harm? Is it going to cause damage? And depending on the score on the risk matrix depends on how it's treated. We don't just go to a pothole, look at it at, let's say 20 mil, for instance. We don't just go to a pothole and say, no, that's not 50 mil. We ain't going to do nothing about it. So we do look at everything in its own merit. Every single job is treated on its own merit, regardless of depth, size, everything.
So, if may I have a copy of that matrix, please? Because my experience of risk matrix, they're rather subjective. They're not really objective at all.
No, this is not objective. This is not subjective. It is how our inspectors go out and view every single defect that we go and look at.
That's subjective. Would you say then that if we've got potholes on a road that is also a nominated cycleway and cyclists fall off due to the potholes, that's a hazard?
Yes.
Excellent. So you would immediately repair such potholes then?
If it met the criteria.
Oh, well, no, hang on. You just said that if a cyclist on a cycleway comes off a bicycle because of the potholes, then that is a safety hazard. It is. I mean, most would agree with you, to be fair.
It would be a safety hazard, yes.
Excellent. So we can rely upon you to repair such potholes.
If they pose a hazard to...
They do pose a hazard. Yes. I happen to be the cyclist that came off on the potholes, you see, so I'm speaking from first-hand experience. Karl's aware of it. Little Sutton Lane, declare an interest outside my house. I look forward to seeing the tarmac lorry there forthwith.
Thank you.
It's a cycleway. Get them filled in, my friend. They are dangerous.
What's the Little Sutton Lane? Which house?
Sutton Lane, opposite Haywood Road, okay. And going down the hill.
No problem. I will get somebody to go and have a look at those tomorrow morning.
I'd love for him to speak to me when he's looking at them. Or she.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. But there's many such instances. My personal experience of other areas is that I've seen many potholes much deeper, and I would love to see a copy of the matrix because it doesn't seem to be working terribly well.
Okay. Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Karl, did you want to come in and partially answer a question there with a helping hand again?
a helping hand again for Kevin. Poor Kevin, he's not going to cover again. Kevin, Councillor, Kier are well aware of this road. I've been working with Lucy behind the scenes and Eddie Fellows to try and expedite this. Kier's hands are tied a little bit. Their inspectors know the parameters that they have to work to, subjective or otherwise. And I've been pushing, as Councillor Allen has said, that it is unsafe for cyclists having to try and navigate a route through. It's not just about the depth, it's about the location of them and the effects of people trying to avoid them, whether that be cyclists or motorists. I've written to BCC colleagues who administer the contracts, and what Kevin won't know is those colleagues have instructed Kier to go and have another look and come back with ideas for, is it patching, is it large patching, is it resurfacing, what exactly is required. There's no decision on it yet, but it's getting closer to being hopefully resolved. So Kevin, you needn't send an inspector out. Your managers are well aware and working with BCC PFI colleagues.
I've got inspectors in that area tomorrow. I will get somebody to have a drive down and make sure, for safety, I will get somebody down there. It's okay. Something that it's in the short term. It's something that we can do. If there is something that's developed that's of major danger, then we can get that sorted. So I will get somebody to go and have a look down there. Okay,
that's appreciated. If the inspectors could go down with a mind that there's a school on there, primary school. It's a school run. It's a busy local access route and a cycle route. It's not just potholes. It's the wider picture.
Sure. Thank you very much, Karl. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so I can't see any more questions for Kevin, so I think it's over to Karl to give us an update on highways. Any highways issues for Trinity?
Thank you for filling in, Kevin. Thank you for coming along.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Anytime.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Brave man.
Over to Karl then. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me. At Trinity and Roughley, we are working on a number of schemes in the wards. At any one time, we have a huge sort of request list of measures that's asked for: traffic calming, yellow lines, speed cushions, speed limit reduction. Hundreds and hundreds of things get asked for, and there's a limit to what we can do. And mostly it's subject to funding and priority. Working with Councillor Pears and residents, constituents in Trinity, this financial year, some of the things we are working on and sort of close to achieving this year are, I'll start with Tudor Hill, means it was mentioned. We had complaint of some parking obstruction, visibility issues on Tudor Hill, junction of Donovan Drive. So we have carried out consultation and not received any objections. So we take that as full support, and we will be installing some WLO lines, just a small section, left and right hand side of Donovan Drive, just to clear the visibility for pulling into and exiting from that junction. Let's have a look. Yeah, it should be done. All the schemes should be. There's a few that we're doing together to keep costs down. It keeps the cost of the advertisements down because we have to advertise in the paper twice. So all the schemes should be done by the end of March, but we're hoping it'll be before then. The informal consultation's complete, so we're just ready for the formal advert to go. There'll be a formal consultation, and then hopefully that small scheme will be in place. Alongside that, we're also doing traffic regulation order, a yellow line scheme around the United Reformed Church. Since Knight's house has been converted to residential and extended a couple of floors, we've been having problems with possibly residents, visitors to the residents and others, parking around the church, affecting the egress to the underground loading for Grace Church. As people may know, large deliveries, including HGVs, they come in from sort of Brassington Avenue by Manor Road, go underneath, load, unload to the shops, and exit by Parker's taxis. There's a single yellow line there that used to work and used to keep the area clear, but because it's now residential, we're having to amend those restrictions to have no waiting at any time and no loading at any time, etc. Because we're having motorists park both sides now, and the deliveries, once have been made, the lorries can't always exit. So we are also working on that one and moving swiftly along. We've also had a lot of complaints, a lot of problems at Trinity Hill during COVID and the time immediately afterwards, where people used to perhaps go into McDonald's and other places. They're now having sort of Just Eats, Uber Eats, whatever, all the different Deliveroos for the food. And those delivery drivers that tend to be self-employed and with their own cars, etc., sometimes dual purpose. They're a taxi, but they're also Uber Eats afterwards. They're parking by the Baptist Church on Trinity Hill, on Victoria Road. So we've been asked to also look at some restrictions there. Now, the problem we have with restrictions, they apply to everybody. So it was quite a delicate negotiation with the Baptist Church on both sides, Christadelphian Hall, and other users there. But we have a scheme that we've tweaked and amended and worked with everybody that everybody now is in favour of, and it's a mixture of no loading, unloading on a part of Brassington Avenue and a part of Trinity Hill, and then a single yellow line restriction a little bit further up Trinity Hill. The reason for the no loading, unloading is that it's an offence to pull up on them. There's no observation period, so should people continue to park there, and then when they're called to collect their order from McDonald's, enforcement can issue a penalty charge notice rather than wait the usual observation time period. We're also doing a few other bits and pieces. We've recently painted a no entry at Manor Hill by Caversham Place. We had complaints there that people were turning in breach of the no entry, and I think most people know what they're doing, but anyway, we had it written on the road just to make it even clearer. And on Queen Street, as you come up Queen Street, with Newell or car park on your right and Aldi on your right, we're putting some lane markings in there just to try and clarify. And what we're going to say is the left-hand lane is to turn left, believe it or not, and the right-hand lane will be for straight on or right, and by that we mean Manor Road and Brassington Avenue. So hopefully that'll make it a little clearer. We had some concern from a driving instructor that was taking people out on lessons and kept coming across confusion, such shall we say. So that are some of the things that we're doing in Trinity. In Roughley Ward, we're concentrating a scheme there on some verge protection measures, and it's along Slade Road, just down from where Kier are working. And what we're looking to do there, the central reservation keeps being abused, driven on, parked on, overridden by refuge, even though the tracking shows that you should be able to make the turning manoeuvre. We know one or two are residents. We know one or two residents that don't care. So we're looking to do a scheme there. It's quite an expensive scheme. It'll probably take most of the funding that we have available. That's a sort of very quick whistle-stop tour of what we're doing, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Karl, which paper do you advertise in these days when it comes to the works that's going on?
Okay, it tends to be the Birmingham Evening Mail.
Yeah, because I feel you're paying the cost then.
Yeah,
you
around £1,500. It's quite a significant chunk of the money.
Could you use the Chronicle? Would that be a cheaper option for you?
It would probably be as an addition and then be dearer.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any questions for Karl at all? Yes, Roy. I think you're on mute, Roy. You're on.
There we are. Okay.
All right.
I'm not sure if this is for Karl, but if it isn't, perhaps it could give us some help as to who's best directed at. About electric vehicle charging points in the town.
Yes.
I've been thinking about buying an electric vehicle, and I find that there's very, very little provision on street or car park.
Yes.
Well, I wondered if there were any plans in hand to develop that aspect. As obviously
yeah, good question, and I'm glad you've asked it because I've got answers, and so I really like those questions. The city council are rolling out. I think it's around 400 at the moment. We first of all concentrated on taxis because there's been a big rollout of electric taxis. And so we're concentrating the first phase for those. And because obviously, the government, I think 2030, you won't be able to buy a petrol or diesel brand new. So with that in mind, I look after 30 car parks across the city, including all of the Sutton Coldfield ones. And in most of those, I have agreed between 2 and 6 EV charging points in all of them. 2 if it's a smaller car park, and up to 6 if it's a larger one. Not all of the car parks, because there's a question mark over 1 or 2 with potential bus interchange, hub, whatever. So there's 1 or 2 I can't consider yet. But in the main, it'll be most of the car parks. And even today, I've been writing to colleagues about Duke Street on the finer detail of it, and Anchorage Road, a couple in Sparkbrook, which won't affect you, but you never know, you may be going to the Balti Belt. So yeah, we're rolling out on all the car parks. We are replacing the ones on Manor Road in Sutton Coldfield. I think that's going to 4, from a 2 to 4. Obviously, Victoria Road multi-storey won't have the 2 there because it remains closed. We are then turning our attentions to high streets as well. I've had requests on Boldmere Road. We are putting some in Kings Heath on the high street, on Bristol Road South in Northfield. Basically, to answer your question, yes, there is a rollout, and I think the next phase is around 400. But it's not just the city council, it's not just highway, and it's not just car parks. I was liaising with Lidl a couple of days ago on one of their sites, and I queried with them why they are only proposing 2 EV charging points, and they are working under government guidelines and planning policy and things I don't understand. But to future-proof it, what I didn't realise, they actually put the infrastructure in underground for up to 10 EV charging points. So they're not daft, they're commercial. Let's have 2 and let everyone else park. And as time goes on and more people get electric vehicles, and as government policy changes, and I believe there's another review of some sort in October, they have the infrastructure in ready just to put equipment on top. And so the private sector, all your supermarkets and those places will all be doing the same. So there will be a significant growth in EV charging points in a very short space of time, I would say.
Thank you, Karl. I do believe Aldi's having some put on their site as well on Brassington Avenue as part of that planning application. I can't remember if it's 4 or 6. So it's something that we're always trying to push for more of. Are there any questions for Karl? I can see a hand up.
Mr. Hartnell has his hand up. Hartwell, sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, Mike. got a question?
Hi, David.
Good
Can I
to see
just,
you.
and you, can I just check? Is it questions about roads in Sutton, or is it questions about roads in Birmingham?
This is highways reporting on Trinity and Roughley wards in Sutton.
So is it roads in Birmingham that Sutton residents go on?
No.
Well, you
Good
could
try.
But yeah, I'm sure your local council will take it up for you.
I mean, separate to this, Mike, I look after a third of Birmingham. So if you want to drop me an email separately, it may be something I can assist you with.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any, Kevin, have you got a question?
No, not a question. Just to jump off the back of what Karl was saying with regards to the EV charging points. I've just done a piece of work with Morrison's. Morrison supermarkets are doing a massive installation of EV charging points within their car parks, as well as Tesco and Sainsbury's are proposing as well. So there's going to be an awful lot of EV charging points popping up at supermarkets at the moment. So just a bit of side information, that's all.
Thank you, Ewan.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure if Mike wants to ask his question, he can ask it. I don't think it's not like we're stoved out with hundreds of questions. I've got no problem with him asking that.
It is partly tongue in cheek as well. So I mean, it's mainly a question for the councillors rather than Karl. But when a development is done as part of the planning application, there are lots of architectural drawings and artist impressions and all sorts of other things. But it all gives the public a view of what they're signing up for or not signing up for. So all the drawings and artist impressions are part of the contract between whoever's doing the building and the great unwashed like myself. So the artist impressions for the work at Perry Bar show that there are always going to be 2 or 3 cars freely moving without any obstructions, no roadworks or bottlenecks at all. So please, can you confirm that Birmingham City Council are going to withhold their end of the contract and make sure that the roads are actually going to be moving freely and not like what they are at the moment?
Well, I think the question there you're asking is that now that David and I were really in favour of that flyover coming down. So to give you an answer, I think it's highly unlikely that the utopia that's portrayed in that photograph, it may well be that it's 2 o'clock in the morning when that was driven and there were a couple of cabs on the Birmingham possibly.
The photographs are from all different angles and areas and times of day and night, and the 2 or 3 cars are always moving freely, and it's just pie in the sky. But just going back to what I think it was either Karl or Kevin said earlier on, it's interesting to note that there is actually a meeting somewhere within Birmingham City Council where all the different people get together about the roadworks that are going on, because I can't think of a dual carriageway into Birmingham that isn't being dug up or has roadworks on at the moment. The A38 is blocked, the A34 is blocked, the A45 is blocked.
I think that probably what Karl can't say is that there was a while where as you know, there's a PFI contractual arrangement between Kier. Now, what was A.O.B? If you remember, A.O.B had the contract, and then they paid money to get out of it in the end. I think they bought the contract and hoped to sell it on, is my personal opinion. They never sold it on. And then there was issues from there on in. Whilst there was negotiations going on, Kier's contract is one that rolls. And so in the sense that they only do it for so much months, and then there's agreement for works to be done in that period. So you get these lulls and things like that. I think I understood that some other agreement, something's been, if the PFI contract was to fail, it's £1 million a month, I think it is, or is it a week? I can't remember which one now. It works out a nice, be a week, I think it is, goes. So that can't allow to fail. So something has gone into the Department of Transport. I think it's been accepted, but I don't know what it is yet. And so you may find that things may smooth out a lot more. But at the moment, it's all Hal-Mel trying to get things in before these interim contracts finish. Is that accurate, Karl, or can you comment on that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, all I can really say is that there was several years where only essential patching took place while the disputes went through the courts. Once it was resolved, there was then a significant backlog, and this is what we're working on. And irrespective of the backlog, utility companies who have a statutory right to excavate on the highway, when I used to be a street works inspector 20 plus years ago, we would have 40,000 excavations a year in Birmingham. That's separate from Kier's works. So if you imagine 40,000 excavations a year by the utilities and Kier trying to help the city get the roads and footpaths, into the right condition, that's why we're suddenly having this amount of work. Obviously, Perry Bar is its own issue. We've got the vision, the Perry Bar vision, but there's an awful lot of eggs to crack. There's a lot of building going on. There's rail stations. There's all sorts being built as well, and infrastructure. And of course, it will cause quite an issue, and probably for 12 months or more. But you can only hope that at the end of it, it'll be a wonderful place.
Well, we had something similar, I think, in 2017, didn't we? I mean, I seem to remember that it was like Birmingham and Sutton Coldfield was closed for business. I don't think you could drive in at one stage without having to queue for half an hour. And then if you're going between Sutton and Birmingham, you were caught at both ends. So yeah, but it is painful at times.
I mean, just from my point of view, I mean, I've worked with Karl for best part of 25 years now, near enough, Karl. I think we've known each other. Working for Kier, the vision that Kier have got, and the work and the ethic that Kier have got versus what Amy had is so totally different. And I would like to think that everything will sort of come good in the end, if that makes sense. The people want to do the work. We want to do the work. The work's there to be done, and we will get that work done. And we'll all work together. We'll work together with Birmingham. We'll work together with the councillors. Work together with the residents, and everything will just flow, and it'll just work, and it'll be good.
We've recorded this, by the way.
Myself on works that have been carried out by Kier, the staff are very much sort of proactively helpful, which wasn't always the case at times when you were arriving on an Amy job. So yeah, you can certainly see it with the staff anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just to point out there, the staff are the same staff. It's the ethic that's changed.
Thank you. David's got a question, I think. I can see his hand up.
The Chairman, I was going to ask, could we possibly go back to the joint Trinity and Roughley ward business? Because that's what I've come here to hear.
Yes, just giving a bit of latitude to colleagues there. So thank you, David, for that. Thank you. Okay, so any more on highways? No, thank you. Okay, so we now move on to item number 6. Thank you, Karl, for that. Sutton Coldfield Town Council, and we're joined tonight by the CEO, Olive O'Sullivan. So, Olive, welcome to the meeting. Would you like to share with us an update on the work of the Town Council from your perspective, please?
Thank you, Councillor Pears, and thank you to you and to Councillor Mackey for the invitation to come along this evening and talk about the work of the Town Council. I'm really, really pleased to have this opportunity to share an update on the work that we are doing. So I will, of course, focus this evening on activities in the Trinity and Roughley wards, but there are some big projects that have started in other wards that I'm sure are of interest to residents of Trinity and Roughley as well. So I'll touch on those also, if I may. So talking about the Trinity ward first, I would of course have to start and to mention the work that the Town Council is doing on regeneration of the town centre. Regeneration of the town centre has been a key priority of the Town Council since the Town Council was established. And I'm really, really pleased that we are now starting to make some really positive strides in terms of the work of the Town Centre Regeneration Partnership that was established by the Town Council back in 2018. It was indeed towards the end of 2018 The master plan that was endorsed by the Town Council last August was adopted by Birmingham City Council as a supplementary planning document in May, and that gives the proposals in the master plan real weight in planning terms. And whilst I don't want to go into the detail of planning applications, I think it was really apparent the importance of having a master plan and that is an SPD when the recent application was received for a very large development in the town centre. The master plan, was able to guide and inform that application, and in particular the response of the Town Council's Planning and Highways Committee. So, I would just reiterate, the Town Council and indeed the Region Partnership really welcomes the developer interest in the town centre, but that has to be in line with the master plan, and now we've got that framework to guide those decisions. So I guess that's probably all that I'll say about the Region Partnership for now. I am really pleased to share with you this evening that the Town Council has now appointed a regeneration programme director. So we're appointing somebody on an interim basis, but that person will really be able to take forward the work that's outlined in the master plan. I would just quickly say that there has been a lot of work going on in the background since the master plan was adopted as an SPD, and in particular in relation to the highways big moves that are set out in the master plan. There's been a lot of transport modelling going on, and we hope to be able to share the details of that with you in the next month or so. But that work is progressing, and as I say, we will hopefully be able to share that with you soon. So along with the Regeneration Programme Director, we do of course also have a team of consultants that are working with us, and we do have specialist, well, we've got a town planner, we've got an urban designer, and we're also really pleased that we've got a former colleague from Birmingham City Council who's now working with a consultancy firm who's providing strategic highways to us. So I guess that's all of the bigger picture stuff. In the meantime, we are also delivering, the quick wins, the projects that will make an impact on the ground. And I'm, delighted to say that the Town Council funded replacement bins and benches on the parade have all been installed now. So there are 19 benches, 29 bins. The Town Council has invested approximately 30,000 on those. And, one of my colleagues met with the contractors on site today. The benches were all occupied. The contractors have received very, very positive feedback. So, we've done a better version of what was previously there. And the idea is that as public realm improvements and some of the bigger projects are delivered, what has been installed in the last week or so can just be taken up and put in place elsewhere in the town. So they're all branded with the Town Council's logo, I'm pleased to say. We're also going to be improving the bedding planting in the town centre, and again we work with Birmingham City Council on that. So as part of the autumn planting season, there will be improvements there. So I think they're quite important, quick wins that improve the visitor experience, and it just makes it a little bit more comfortable in the town centre if you need to sit and take a break. So that's one of the projects. I know my colleague Mark, when he came last month, talked about the work that town rangers are doing. They are still doing lots of work, and I just, one of the key things that they do is to actually make sure that the City Council car parks are all clean and tidy, and I think they do a fabulous job of that. The Town Council also funds the free Wi-Fi that's in the town centre. When that was installed, that was an investment of just under 40,000, and that's really, really useful. Again, it's useful for visitors, those for leisure, but as lots of people are now working in cafes or having meetings in cafes within the town, it's also being used for business purposes. Not only is that of use to visitors, it provides really, really useful information to the town council that can be shared with our partners in the business improvement district on footfall, because that tells us exactly the number of visitors that are in the town centre, and indeed the local centres. We also provide the free Wi-Fi in the local centres. It tells us the number of visitors at any one point. So anybody that's in the town centre with a smartphone, the Wi-Fi signals will pick that up. So I can, for example, tell you that in August there were 103,448 visits to the town centre of people with smartphones, that the average number of visits per day was 3,337. We know the times of the day that are most popular, and interestingly, the busiest day was Friday the 13th. So, that's really useful information as to where people are moving, and that helps planning for retail. It also helps planning for highways. I'm going to take a breath there because I can see the Councillor Mackey has his hand up. So if there's a question that you'd like to ask at this point, shall we?
It was more.
Yeah, catch a breath, Olive. Yeah. So, Ewan.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, it was a comment and a question really. I was had a number of meetings with Birmingham over the last few months, and most of them around sort of digital deprivation, and it's everywhere in the city, and you don't often see it because it's the sort of thing that people don't advertise. But when you're reading about sort of families sitting outside a library in the evening because that's the only internet connection they can get for their kids to do their homework, I think it shows you how valuable sort of some of these projects are, because especially even though they're town centre based, there's quite a few of sort of residential properties in amongst those, and you do get people travelling in, to use it from that. I know the majority of Sutton Coldfield is lucky enough to have really good internet broadband or sort of 4 and sort of now 5G coverage, but there's still an awful lot of people in the town that don't have any at all, and I think this is a project I would like to see rolled out across Birmingham really, and very lucky that we've got a town council that can do it. I was just wondering, from your footfall figures, do you get are you able to see how the footfall rises and falls? And I presume the footfall trend is up as coronavirus is becoming sort of a different phase through to so many people being vaccinated. The hospital level is dropping. So I was just wondering, is it moving sort of exponentially upwards?
It is moving in the right direction. I know over August is also the holiday period, so there was a slight decrease over the previous month, but I think that's to be expected during the summer season. So, but yes, I mean, and I would be very happy to share that that information with you so that you can see that positive trajectory.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next thing that I've got on my list are the public hire cycles. I have to say they have been hugely popular, and the Town Council was really pleased that the trial for the whole of the West Midlands scheme took place in Sutton Coldfield back in February. So since the scheme started properly, there have been just over 6,466 actual journeys made. There have been over 4,305 registered users. There have been 30,411 kilometres cycled, and that was over a period of 5,590 hours. So, there are docking stations. I'd like to say in the town centre, there's now a docking station on outside Good Hope, the entrance to Good Hope Hospital and Rectory Road. There's a docking station by Boddington Gardens, which is adjacent to Beaches Walk. So, and there is a docking station planned also for Sutton Coldfield Station. The docking stations that are near the park are amongst the most popular across the whole of the West Midlands. So what's really, really clear is that in Sutton Coldfield, they are being used for leisure purposes, and they are really, really popular. It was interesting to hear some of the early discussion about electric cars. some councillors, I'm looking, Councillor Pears was on a call earlier, that we were discussing an active travel plan for Sutton Coldfield. And one of the discussions there was around the emerging popularity of e-bikes and the expectation that they're going to get more and more popular in years to come. So we're also thinking about infrastructure for the future and what might need to be put in place so people can use other modes of transport, but it is also about health outcomes. And really, really pleased at the success of the cycle scheme. Jump back to the projects that we've supported in the town centre again, if I may, because some of these you might not be aware of. So, for example, the new lighting that's been installed in the parade, we jointly funded that with Birmingham City Council. We also invest very heavily in the floral decorations, and they've all been beautiful. And really pleased with colleagues in Birmingham City Council that we're working with on those. I'll also mention the wildflowers here. They've been hugely popular. There's been so much positive feedback about those. And again, those are funded by the Town Council, and we work with Birmingham on those. I'm going to, as I'm talking florals, I would have to mention Veazey Gardens and the absolutely splendid display that's there this year. That really, really is beautiful. And I'm really pleased that the asset transfer of Veazey Gardens from Birmingham City Council to the Town Council is now progressing. So we're discussing the draft transfer document for that. And once that transfers to the Town Council, we would hope to make some further improvements, particularly in relation to the infrastructure there. So that's a real positive, that's progressing as well. And, when we last entered Bloom, we got gold. So we would hope that next year, for the Queen's Jubilee, celebrating the Commonwealth Games, and of course our Bloom entry, that we'll have another fantastic entry, and we're working very closely with local community groups on that. If I'm talking about working with community groups, I have to mention, in terms of the environment, the fantastic work that the Sutton Coldfield Litter Action Group do, and the Town Council is pleased to provide that group with all the equipment that they need. So we provide the litter picks, and we've been getting the bags and the high-vis vests and providing the maps and just generally supporting them to be able to do all of that. One of course, the biggest investments the Town Council makes in the Trinity ward is its financial contribution towards the library. You may be aware that the Town Council contributes just under 140,000 annually towards the running costs of the library. I'm also pleased to say that the work on the Sutton Coldfield archive is due to commence next month. Again, that was commissioned prior to the start of the pandemic, and an organisation has been commissioned to catalogue the Sutton Coldfield archive that's currently stored in the library. So some of the items you'll be aware have previously been on display. The idea is to actually, look at what's there to document it, but more importantly, to see what needs to be done to conserve any of the items, and most importantly of all, how they can be exhibited so it can be accessed by local residents. So that's another project. The week that it is, I would have to mention, of course, the Town Council is really pleased and privileged to organise the annual civic service, which took place last Sunday at Holy Trinity Parish Church. And that was a lovely opportunity to bring community groups together again for the first time, and to acknowledge the civic pride that is in Sutton Coldfield and the role that all of the voluntary and community groups play. We also funded the fete that took place at Sutton Coldfield Town Hall. So I know I'm going through quite a number of these at some pace, but I guess people might not always know exactly what it is the town council is doing, and we need to get better at getting our key messages out, and that's something that we are working on. But as I say, really, really pleased to be able to come here this evening and talk about some of the projects. The town council does, of course, also provide a community grant scheme, and I had a little look today, and since the scheme was introduced by the town council, just over £140,000 has been allocated specifically within the Trinity ward. And those projects are across health and wellbeing, their youth, there's arts and culture, supporting sport provision, and also supporting a number of projects on Falcon Lodge. Falcon Lodge has a community plan, and projects that are developed within that area to support the local community do get priority for funding from that particular plan. So I think that's a very, very quick summary of some of the projects that we've been working on in the Trinity ward. The Roughley ward, not quite as many, so we've got more work to do there. But you may be aware that the town council funded the new bins in the public open space. Again, we fund the florals there. We're pleased to have funded the driver feedback sign on Slade Road. And as we're now looking at the programme for the festive lights, I'm pleased to say that we're going to be looking at having a Christmas tree in Roughley at the Harvest Fields for the first time this year. I said I would mention some of the other projects that we're working with. The first one I'd like to mention is the work that's currently underway at the site of the War Memorial in Warmley. We're really pleased that that has now transferred to the town council, and the works to improve the whole of the public space around the memorial are well progressed, and they will be complete in time for Remembrance Sunday. And I guess by way of update for me, and I will of course take questions, I would like to say publicly a huge thank you to all of the volunteers that are that work with the town council at the vaccination centre. They have been absolutely amazing, from right from the start back in February. And I think, at every opportunity, we really just should thank them, because they just keep digging deeper and deeper. And now as we go into this final phase of the booster jabs and the flu vaccines, the volunteers, you will have seen, are there, and, just working to ensure that the experience of getting the vaccine is as safe and as as pleasant as it can be for our local residents. So huge, and my heartfelt thanks to all of them. They've just been brilliant. So I think those are the areas that I would like to cover. So as I say, there's still time for questions, so I'd be more than happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Ollie, for that very comprehensive report. A lot of good news in there, so that's very welcome. Thank you. And obviously we do appreciate the work of the volunteers, but also the work of yourself and officers in terms of coordinating all the volunteers, which I don't think a lot of residents are aware of. It's been fantastic, so thank you for that. So over to questions now. I see Mike's got his hand up on my screen. Mike, you've got a question for Olive?
Yeah. Hi, Olive.
Hello, Mike.
You mentioned in your talk about the messages the council are sending out. Thinking about coming to this meeting, I do what I normally do. Being an accountant, I looked at the accounts. The headers are wrong on the accounts that are there. The dates are wrong. The message that sends to the public, the great unwashed like myself, is that the 24 councillors don't pay enough attention, that the team in the office don't pay enough attention, that the other organisations that look at the accounts have missed it. The other message that's being sent out is the 60% increase in staff. So the message that sends out is that the council want to do less with more. would you like to comment?
Well, Mike, if you would, you've got my email address. Please do send me through where you say the headers are incorrect on the accounts. I'm really quite surprised that our internal and external accountants have missed that. So if you would care to send them through to me, I will pick that up with you separately outside of the meeting.
If I could share, I'm not allowed to share, but if I could, I'd show you now, but I can't. So yeah, okay, I'll email you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And in terms of the staffing increase, there is a reason why I think the staffing has increased, Olive. I know you've mentioned about the regeneration, and I know there's a community officer being appointed. I know probably we're going to be appointing a replacement communications officer. But I mean, generally, the town council is very careful in terms of the costs and the amount that we spend on admin and staffing and those sorts of things. So, Olive, would you like to add any more to the question about 60% increase in staff?
Well, I would say that we're a staff of 5 at the moment, and I would say that what we, as such a small staff team, that we do a fantastic job, and of course I would say that. So I think as a town council, for the number of staff that we've got, we punch way above our weight. And when people come in and see what we have achieved, and of course we would always want to achieve more, I think given the very, very small team that we are, we do a great job, and we absolutely need more staff. And it's well known just how difficult it is to recruit staff at the present time. So that's going to be an ongoing thing that the town council is looking to do to get more staff. We've got a big, ambitious programme. There are lots of projects to deliver, and you need the staff to do it.
Okay, thanks,
So, and
Olive.
Councillor Allen
I know that's Town Councillor David Allen who wants to ask a question or make a point, I suspect. David, do you want to come in there? You're on mute, David.
Mute, yes, indeed. My apologies. Yeah, I'm afraid I missed the very beginning of that. There was some hiatus on my audio, sadly, but I did catch, I think, the greater part of Mike's commentary. I have to say that compared with other councils around the country, the productivity of our officers is actually higher. We're quite a big budget business, and you do need staff to operate a business. I've been over many of our activities, and I'm always impressed by the amount of effort our officers put in and the quality of what they do when they're putting it in. In terms of the auditory comments, and those are the bits I missed, I'd be quite shocked if there was anything wrong with our audits, because we're using reputable people who do a very competent job, and we've come out well. And I look forward to seeing those comments as they come to Olive. And I do hope, Mike, if you're found to be in error in any of those, you'll actually withdraw the comments in an equally public venue. Because normally, if people have got comments like that, they do ask the question a little bit more discreetly first. I'm disappointed in you in that. Thank you.
Okay, well,
thank you. The report now.
Thank you, David. Okay, so, are there any more questions for Olive? Olive, thank you very much for coming along and for the positive report on the work of the town council. It's much appreciated. So thank you for that. So now we move on to item number 7, which is any other business and urgent matters of local concern. Are there any matters of urgent local concern that anyone wishes to raise? I think I can see a hand from Mike on that one.
Thank you, David. It's mainly a question for you, and it won't come as much as a surprise as to what the topic is. But as you know, the number of children requiring secondary school places is increasing by 800 over the next 2 years. That's the equivalent of 4 new secondary schools across Birmingham. As councillor for Roughley, what are you doing to make sure the children in your ward get the schools that they want?
That's very good question. I think as you know, because we've had this conversation ongoing, and we are jointly trying to find out sort of what the overall plan is to make sure that there is the correct amount of schooling available in Sutton Coldfield. I think there is a problem to be even handed with it, that a lot of people, there's certain schools that a lot of people want all their children to go to, and there's another school that has capacity that doesn't always get children into that school. That's just me pushing forward Birmingham City Council's line, because it's supposed to be representing everyone here at this meeting. And so, but no, I'm with you sort of on that, and that so yes, as you know, we're asking the question of that. I think the question follows with the figures that you see. They go in waves, don't they? Like there was a few years ago when there was the disgraceful decision made to send children to Great Bar School from Sutton Coldfield, 2 buses and a 2-bus journey over an hour just to get to school, never mind getting back, you know, is outrageous. And that through really the hard work of parents, that was resolved. Then we've had a couple of years where it's a bit quieter. And then obviously we've got a situation where you can look at the numbers coming forward where it looks like we're getting to that bit there. And it's a question, myself as an opposition councillor and you as a concerned resident, to make sure that we put pressure on that that's factored in, rather than we get to the situation that happened there where sort of everyone goes, "Dear, we haven't got enough places." So keep pushing, I think, is the answer to your question.
Thank you. And do you want an officer from education for our next meeting?
That would be very helpful, thank you, David.
If they're brave enough to attend, yes.
Well, we'll see what we can engineer for you for that one. David, you got a question?
Well, no, I just wanted to thank you, Chairman, and Councillor Mackey and the officers for their courtesy and the answers that we've been given tonight. It's very much appreciated, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your input and thank you for the comments. Thank you, David. Okay, so I can't see any of the hands up. I'm wondering about a future meeting date, Leslie Ewan, and I don't know if January is in the time frame when we'd be thinking of having the next meeting.
Well, what do we do? Because I may have someone who wishes to apply for funding as part of the community grant funding scheme. Obviously, that needs to be voted on at the ward meeting. So would we have a possibility of one in November if I was to have an organisation that was looking to have a vote? Because January would be too late for that, I think.
Okay, so that would be, you're right about that. What date in November are you thinking of?
You put me a bit on the spot now. I'll certainly avoid the 5th. Could we pencil in?
Do you want the 11th or the 25th?
Could we say the 20? What is the 18th? No good for you? Is that what you're saying, David?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Should we pencil in the 25th, and then obviously subject to whether I have a funding, unless you want to hold it anyway, regardless of whether you have.
If we have it anyway, we can invite the police. Then is that all right, Leslie?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I've
Okay,
wrote
so
it on the diary.
Next meeting will be the 25th of November. And we'll put that out in the usual way. And then I'd just like to thank everyone for coming along tonight and for your contributions. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Thank you. Good.
Yes, thank you, David. Thanks, you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.